Yeah, as for the Richard Torres fight, Sean, Abdullah Mason got a knockout, actually went a couple rounds this time. And then Torres reminded me of you in some way.
Go ahead. Go back to Abdullah real quick.
So Carlos Ornelas extends him a couple more rounds than we're used to him seeing. And Abdullah still makes him take a knee 2 or 3 times and stops him. Power was pretty ridiculous, but to critique Abdullah, because I've talked about him being the best prospect in boxing. Maybe he projects to be even better than all these young champions we got, like Keyshawn and Tank and Devin and all them. But still some things to definitely work on before he gets there, man. His feet and he's not doing a whole lot with his feet. At times, he's allowing his length and his hand speed in the pocket to just do what he wants to do. But his feet aren't very bouncy. He's not up on his toes. Sometimes he's a little heavy on that front foot. And then he's got great long arms. And when he shoots it out there, he's got a good jab, but you hardly see the jab because he wants something coming back to counterpunch in the pocket. And so got to get the feet picked up a little bit more on the toes, and then the no feints. Against the guys he's fighting right now, he's not really having to feint, but the jab, the feint, and the footwork, not coming along like it is the counterpunch. And I think he's got all the tools to do it. Just maybe against this level of guys, he hasn't had to bring it out yet. But you got to work on it before you do have to bring it out, right, Sean? But still look sensational.
But everything that you just said, we've seen, right?
I've seen a lot. Like he reminds me of Shushu right now. They got long arms, hand speed, and they're devastating counterpunchers. But they're not using their jab a whole lot, and they're not using their feet and their feints a whole lot. And they don't have to right now. They're long and explosive enough and skilled enough with the counters, but those other tools are going to have to probably be used pretty soon.
But the point is, we've seen him use the jab. We've seen him use his feet. We've seen him be a great counterpuncher. We've seen him, take the fight to guy. We've seen it all. When you get to the highest level, some fights you got to use it all. Some fights, as the fight goes on, you find which tools you need, and you just use those tools. This is my concern with this kid. He turned pro at 17, right?
Yeah.
He's now 21 years old.
He had his 21st birthday the night of the fight.
He's now 21 years old. He now has only 17 fights. The things that you're saying, Zittel, the only thing that's going to force him to do the things that you're saying he has to do is he has to step up in competition. What has to happen first is they got to put somebody in. They've got to put a name in front of him. That makes him think, oh, okay, yeah, I got a game plan. I got to be ready for this. I got to be ready for that. And he's got to come to the ring sharp. There's nobody in between that can do that for him.
Tevin Farmer.
Now, okay, so now we're looking like this. Exactly here yet, but now he's looking like this, and you're going in the ring with the Tevin Farmer. But it don't get no easier than Tevin Farmer, because the other side of that is a kid that Tevin just fought, which is a really hard night. And that kid a southpaw too?
He is.
Yeah. So that's a really hard night. I'm not. The kid isn't limited. I just have small concerns with them being 21 years old, not being a true man yet, ahead of his time, 100%. But when you're ahead of your time, and then now you're here, but you're catching up to your time. Now everything starts to even itself out. When everything evens itself out, all of a sudden, are you as strong as you should be, could be, were before? Are you as powerful? Those sharp counter punches, that first move that may not work. What happens when that first move doesn't work? Are you going to keep going to it because it's worked so many times before? Or are you going to be able to mentally lock into doing whatever needs to be done? So I can't critique him on this, because I just thought, listen, at the end of the day, we fight who they put in front of us. And I thought he looked extreme against who they put in front of him. This fight went 6 rounds. You sent me the highlights, and after I think the 4th round, I was like, I can't watch anymore. This dude is just taking too much punishment, and I can't do it anymore. I'm like, it's just not fair. The corner don't give a damn.
The
Uh,
ref doesn't give a damn either.
the ref, I think he didn't know how to give a damn. And I don't know if the doctors knew that they should give a damn. It just and as I was turning it off, I was like, finally, somebody stepped in and stopped this thing. And I looked down, it was the sixth round, but that was a lot of punishment for that guy to take. What's that
Ornelas.
guy's name? Ornelas. Yeah, it was a lot of punishment for him to take. And I thought Abdullah did what he needed to do. The things that you're calling for are things that if he has to do them, I think that he can call for them. They'll be there, But what I would hate is for him to, be stepping up to bigger competition at 21. I think he should be doing that closer to 23, 24 years old.
Yeah, but because he's so good already,
Mm-hmm.
he's in an awkward spot, like you said, where
Mm-hmm.
he's already heading into this fight. He's probably going to be rated even higher now. He was
Yeah.
already top 8 with the WBC and the WBO.
Listen,
So,
look at Boots Ennis. When Boots was lights out, I was still fighting. Arrow was in a better position than he's in now. We had some names that people were like, "Oh, I want to see him against Boots." Was Boots truly ready at that age? Boots ready now. Boots is, I think, 28 now, and I think he's definitely ready now. So timing is everything. He had some lulls in his career. Those lulls more than likely proved to be very beneficial for him. Me turning pro at 21, opposed to the 18 years old that when I initially talked to my dad, he said, "Go for the Olympics." We went for the Olympics. Took 3 more years to mature. I had a lull in my game between 2011 and 2012. Which probably proved to be very beneficial for me from a growth standpoint. But what you can't do is purposely say, well, we're not gonna fight him. You gotta keep fighting the kid. So they're gonna have to figure it out.
well, what's interesting, because really it's like what you're talking about is a problem the matchmakers are going to have to navigate, right?
Exactly.
And it's tough to, in this scenario where you're trying to build a fighter, but you need for the long term benefit to challenge him and maybe even your benchmark against Diaz, right? You wind up
Mm-hmm.
having a draw. Okay, so the bad side is this next little welterweight Mike Tyson you're trying to build up. Well, he just had a draw with a veteran, but you needed that. You needed
Mm-hmm.
that so that long term you could be the fighter you were,
Right.
and it's fans will jump out at those performances when you're climbing to the top, but it's almost good to have these little benchmarks where you don't look good, where it settles you down, lets you know exactly what needs to be worked on. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're still not headed for the ridiculous highs that you're headed to, but it's good to struggle sometimes. Maybe that's what they got to find him is a veteran who could make them, look human.
Much more dangerous, but it happens in every other sport. Every other sport, you got a lights out team that's lighting everybody up, and then they have that one game in the
Right.
year, and it's like, well, glad we got that out of our system. Much more
Right.
dangerous to do in boxing. You really don't want to create that scenario, but you gotta figure out a way to have that scenario be a part of the story because it builds the story. Not too many people have a story that just goes so great. I mean, I think Roy Jones would be that example of a story that went so great,
Floyd.
and then
Yeah.
and then it just does like this. Yeah, Floyd would be, but Floyd had some moments
He
where
actually did.
he
That
had
people
some
have
moments where
forgotten.
that he had to go like this. It
Yeah.
was a building process for him.
Go back and listen to George Foreman when he fought Goyo Vargas. George Foreman was, rest in peace, the late George Foreman. He was questioning a lot of Mayweather's sense of urgency and all these kinds of things. So yeah, even Floyd had that stuff. So